What's going on, kings and queens? It's Mitchell Chance, the voice of revolution, exposing minds to truth. I'd like to thank you so much for purchasing this webinar. This webinar is going to be very powerful and very impactful in seeing what was done to us mentally and psychologically through the teachings of Willie Lynch in order for us to understand what was done, so we can counter what it was that was done to us in order for us to mentally break the mental curse of Willie Lynch. So I'm just going to start reading, and as I read, we're going to go through, break down what actually was done, and then I'm going to show some counter ways to deal with this. So let's just jump right into the letter. Gentlemen, you know what your problems are. I do not need to elaborate. I am not here to enumerate your problems. I am here to introduce you to a method of solving them. In my bag here, I have a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. I guarantee every one of you that if installed correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. My method is simple. Any member of your family or your overseer can use it. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves and make the differences bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control. So first thing we have to understand is that this thing, or these teachings, are all about mental control. And as you see, Willie tells them that this is going to keep their minds for 300 years. He goes on to say if it's done correctly and there's no phenomenon to change it, it will have their minds for the next 1,000 years. So this is what we are up against. We are up against a strategic, psychological, and mental plan that is in place to trap our minds. And so many of our people's minds are trapped, which is why we cannot get them to be pro-black, which is why we cannot get them to build, which is why we cannot get them to do any of the things that are necessary, because they're still trained to believe the way Willie Lynch made the slaves believe, even though they themselves were never enslaved. These are the 6 cardinal principles in making a slave. Both horse and niggers are no good to the economy if in their wild or natural state. Both must be broken and tied together for orderly production. Both must be crossbred to produce a variety and division of labor. Both must be taught to respond to a peculiar new language. And the last one, psychological and physical instruction of containment must be created for both psychological and physical containment. And we see many of our people are dealing with psychological and mental containment. Let's jump back into the letter. See how he started this thing off. These methods have worked on my modest plantation in the West Indies, and it will work throughout the South. Take this simple list of differences and think about them. On top of my list is age, but it's only there because it starts with an A. The second is color or shade. There is intelligence, size, sex, size of plantations and status on plantations, attitudes of owner, whether the slaves live in the valley, on the hill, east, west, north, south, have fine hair, coarse hair, or is tall or short. Now that you have a list of differences, I shall give you an outline of action. But before that, I shall assure you that distrust is stronger than trust, and envy stronger than adulation, respect, or admiration. The black slaves, after receiving this indoctrination, shall carry on and will become self-refueling and self-generating for hundreds of years, maybe thousands. So now, step 1 was separation by differences. Age, color, intelligence, size, sex, size of plantation and status, status on the plantation, attitude of the owners, whether the slaves live in the valley or on the hill, east, west, north, south, have fine hair or coarse hair. Now, what we have to wrestle with or identify today is, how do we see these differences working today? How do we see these differences? Do we still see conflict between the older generation and the younger generation? Do we still see conflict between the darker blacks and the lighter blacks? Do we still see conflict between those who are intelligent or those who have been educated and those who have not been educated? Do we still see conflict between the tall and the short, the skinny, the fat? Do we still see these conflicts? Then he goes on to say the size of the plantation or the status on the plantation, but we're going to replace plantation with job. So now we have conflict between people who are on certain kinds of jobs and those who aren't, or those who have certain statuses in their jobs, be it corporate America, be it politicians. They have a certain status on their job. Their job is their plantation, and they use all of those different things in order to continually pit us together. So he says, don't forget you must pitch the old black male versus the young black male, and the young black male against the old black male. You must use the dark-skinned slaves versus the light-skinned slaves, and the light-skinned slaves versus the dark-skinned slaves. You must use the female versus the male, and the male versus the female. You must have your white servants and overseers distrust all blacks. It is necessary that your slaves trust and depend on us. They must love, respect, and trust only us. Gentlemen, these kits are your keys to control. Use them. Have your wives and children use them. Never miss an opportunity to use them. If used intentionally for 1 year, the slaves themselves will remain perpetually distrustful of each other. Now, we have to begin to identify and intentionally love and appreciate all of our differences. So we have to love and appreciate our darker brothers and sisters. We have to love and appreciate our more brown brothers and sisters. We have to love and appreciate our lighter brothers and sisters, those with long hair, those with short hair. We have to look at the spectrum of black people spread across the diaspora of all African descendants and say, I love and appreciate your difference. Not that your difference makes me feel less than, or not my difference makes me feel better than you, but when I look at you, I see a beauty in the difference. I see such a beauty in the fact that we're not all alike. I see such a beauty in the fact that you don't look like me. I don't need the world to look like me. They say opposites attract, so we need some opposites, but we have to be strategically intentional about this love. We have to begin to go out of our way to show our love and appreciation for one another. We cannot continually allow them to put us together or perpetuate the way they put us together years ago, and we're still doing it to this day. He said, if we do this right, they will perpetually do this to themselves, probably for thousands of years. So we were taught to separate and hate each other because of them. So the counter is to love. The counter to hate and separation of our people is to love everything different. I find beauty in every shade of African woman, whether she's dark, whether she's caramel, whether she's light, whether even if she's albino, no matter what it is, the lighter, the darker, no matter what it is, I can find beauty in it. I can find beauty in our sisters whose hair is more straight, and I can find beauty in our sisters whose hair are more coarse, but we have to be intentional about it because they were intentional about separating us. They were intentional about pitting us one against each other. Now, the only way to counter what they've done is for us to be intentional about love. Now, understand this. Forced actions eventually change mindsets. Forced actions eventually change mindsets. What does that mean? That means if they can beat us and enslave us and force us to do something long enough, eventually the action that we do will become our mindset. So they physically force you to do something until the action that you do becomes something you now agree with and continue to push forward. Why do I bring that up? Because now what we have to do is force our actions. That's what I'm saying. Be intentional. It might seem a little weird to force yourself to see the different beauty. It might seem a little weird or awkward, or might be a little bit hard, but you have to force yourself. The more I become educated on our culture, the more I become educated on our people, it causes me to force myself to see our people differently. One day I saw a young sister with a ring in her nose, a ring in both sides of her mouth, and different piercings and tattoos. And my brainwashed instinct looked at her and said, you know, but she just don't want nothing out of life. But because of my education And because I'm forcing myself to be intentional to see our people better, I looked at her and said, well, wearing bones through the nose is traditional African culture. And wearing the rings in the mouth is traditional African culture. And the carving of the face is traditional African culture. And I began to force myself to change what I called appropriate. When I looked at women that previously I would not have considered attractive, I forced myself to say, hold on, I need to look at beauty differently. And the more I force myself, the more my mindset begins to change. So now, the next step, after separation, there was a creation of distrust. And as we read, the belief was distrust is stronger than adulation, respect, or admiration. We see today how distrust is the number one reason or the number one thing that hinders Black unity. We don't trust people enough to spend our money with them. We don't trust people enough to lead us. We don't trust people enough, like say a Umar Johnson, to give him the money to start a school. We don't trust our people when they give us information. We don't trust our people when they teach us. We need a white person to validate whatever a Black scholar says. And if a Caucasian doesn't validate it, we can't accept it as right. And all of this is because of this distrust. But if forced actions eventually changes mindsets, we just have to force ourselves to take a chance on our people. We have to force ourselves to support Black businesses. We have to force ourselves to trust leadership that is speaking to fully address our issues. Now, I'm not saying just accept any old person who wants to be a leader, but if they're speaking about fully addressing our issues, then we must force ourselves to trust their leadership. We must force ourselves to take part in corporate spending. We got to begin to collectively put money together in order to do the things that we need done. We need to control industries. Now, we got, 40 million Blacks in this country? And I talked about this before. If we all put up $10 a month for 3 years, we'll have almost $14 billion to do whatever we want with. So we have to force ourselves to collectively put our money together. We also have to force ourselves to move back with each other and stop having this mindset that because I'm doing a little bit good, if I live in the hood, I'm gonna get robbed. If I live in the hood, somebody's gonna break in my house or somebody's gonna steal my car. They've made us distrust ourselves so much that people who are from these neighborhoods feel like they can't go back. I'm never going to feel like I can't go back to my neighborhood. These are my people. I know these people. I love these people. I grew up with these people. How can we grow up in an area, become successful, and then all of a sudden think the people that were our friends, the people who were our neighbors, now all of a sudden they're just going to rob and kill us? That's because we've been trained to distrust each other. So in order to counter this distrust, we have to have these forced actions, and these forced actions will eventually change our mindset. So the more I trust Black businesses and force myself to spend money with them, the more I force myself to trust leadership, the more I force myself to go back into my neighborhood, the more I force myself to collectively spend, I will see that these things work for my good. I will see that these things work for the good of the race. But until I force myself, I'm going to continue to distrust. But forced actions eventually change mindsets. And after a year of us forcing ourselves to be together, build together, love each other, work with each other, spend money with each other, trust our scholarship, after a year of that, watch how our minds will be transformed. Our minds will be drastically transformed, and the curse of Willie Lynch will be falling off of our brains in just a year, maybe even less. But we have to force ourselves to do certain things in order to begin to change our mindset. So with everything, we got to keep that in mind. Forced actions will eventually change mindsets. Let's make a slave. It was the interest and business of slaveholders to study human nature, and the slave nature in particular, with a view to practical results. I and many of them attained astonishing proficiency in this direction. They had to deal not with earth, wood, and stone, but with men, and by every regard they had for their own safety and prosperity, they needed to know the material on which they were to work. Conscious of the injustice and wrong, they were every hour perpetuating and knowing what they themselves would do. Were they the victims of such wrongs? They were constantly looking for the first signs of the dreaded retribution. They watched, therefore, with skilled and practiced eyes and learned to read with great accuracy the state of mind and heart of the slave through his sable face, unusual sobriety, apparent abstraction, sullenness, and indifference indeed. Any mood out of the common was afforded ground for suspicion and inquiry. Let's make a slave. What do we need? First of all, we need a black nigger man, a pregnant nigger woman, and her baby nigger boy. Second, we will use the same basic principle that we use in breaking a horse, combined with some more sustaining factors. What we do with horses is we break them from one form of life to another. That is, we reduce them from their natural state in nature. Whereas nature provides them with the natural capacity to take care of their offspring, we break that natural string of independence from them and thereby create a dependency status so that we may be able to get from them useful production for our business and our pleasure. So he's telling us we've studied these people. And we've attained astonishing proficiency in this direction. And that these people are always going to be conscious of their injustices. So the plan is to get them to no longer view injustice as injustice. And today we see many people, well, many black people who will say, you know, everything isn't about race, or, you know, we've come a long way. Racism is gone in America because we had a black president, and so on and so on and so on. And these individuals will push this agenda because they're still trained to think that their injustice is an injustice. So from the rip, Willie is teaching, I have to get these people to believe that when I do them wrong, it's nothing wrong with it. Now, the slave-making process was marked after how horses are broken. The goal with the horse and us was to change us from our natural state. This isn't about getting us to physically work as a slave, but mentally become one. There was two types of African people on the plantations: those that were enslaved and those who were slaves. There's a huge difference between the two. Alvin Morrow, in his book, Breaking the Curse of Willie Lynch, says that a new slave is anyone who carries on the will of the original slave master. Now, that was the goal when they are talking about changing us from our natural state, and that change was developed by creating a state of dependence on them and us losing our independence. So he says that nature afforded them the capacity to take care of their offspring. We break that natural string of independence from them and thereby create a dependency status so that we may be able to get from them useful production for our business and pleasure. Now, many of us have accepted a second-class role in society. We have accepted the hood conditions, negative images in entertainment, predominantly Caucasian police forces in our neighborhood, politicians who don't have our best interests in mind. In this, we are changed from our natural state. We no longer desire equality. We desire to stay in a lower role, but receive better treatment. So now in our natural state, we want to go back to kings and queens and pharaohs and emperors and empresses. In our natural state, we want to depend on ourselves. In our natural state, we don't need anybody else to do anything for us. In our natural state, we don't need family court and DHS to come in with our children. In our natural state, we don't need child support to come in and tell us how much money we have to spend to take care of our children. In our natural state, we don't need Caucasian police forces policing us. In our natural state, we don't need this government to tell us what's right and what's wrong for us. But when we're breaking out of our natural state, when we're taken out of our natural state, we don't want equality. We just want those who are in power over us to treat us better. So instead of us fighting for full equality, we'll fight for massa to treat us better. Instead of us fighting within our own communities say in the 50s, 40s, to build up everything black, we fought for integration. Instead of making better black restaurants, we fought to eat with Caucasians. Instead of creating better black education, we fought to learn from and with Caucasians. That is being broken from your natural state. You are no longer desiring true equality. You are no longer desiring to be what you would be in the absence of slavery. You are only desiring what the slave master wants you to desire, because if you depend on them, they can continue to manipulate, abuse, use, and profit off of you. Meanwhile, you're still a slave on a plantation, even though you might be making some money. Now, to counter this, we must first define equality and have a mindset that it is all that we will accept in this life. What does equality mean to you? That's the question that many of us have to wrestle with. What does equality mean to you? Now, Brother Minister Malcolm, he said it so eloquently when he said that the right to sit in the front or back of somebody else's bus is not equality. Equality is owning your own bus. Now, if equality does not mean owning all of your own everything, then that's not equality. If equality does not mean I need my own area with my own people where I dictate the destiny of them, then you're thinking wrong. Your natural state has been altered. For us to think that we have to continually be integrated, for us to think that we can continually put faith in this government, for us to think that we can continually wait for white saviors, for us to continually think that white Jesus is going to save us, we are broken from our natural state. And in order for us to get put back in our natural state, we have to desire true equality. And true equality is not given. True equality is exercised. In her book, End of Blackness, Deborah Dickerson says, blacks have yet to realize that black autonomy is not whites to give, it's blacks to exercise. In other words, it's not for them to say, hey, okay, you guys are now equal. You have everything that you need. We're going to give it to you. It's for us to build everything that we want. It's for us to stand up and say, this is our community. We're going to live in this community the way we want. You're not going to give us laws to govern our community. You're not going to give us politicians. You're not going to give us police forces. We're going to do everything ourselves. So if we want to counter this dependency, we have to desire independency. If we want to break being dependent from them, our mindset has to be solely based on desiring equality. And equality means our own equal everything, our own equal military, our own equal government, our own equal hospitals, our own equal dentists, our own equal buildings, our own equal colleges. Everything that's in this country, we need to have our own equal to. We have to begin to support HBCUs more, that those colleges can be equal to the private Caucasian institutions. This is how we counter the dependency, because racism, mark this, racism is dependent upon the oppressed needing the oppressor. Write that down. Racism is dependent upon the oppressed needing the oppressor. The moment the oppressed no longer needs the oppressor, there can be no racism. There can be hatred, there can be prejudice, but there can be no systemic racism because I don't need you. If I don't need you to hire me, you can't be racist and discriminate on me because of the color of my skin. If I don't need you to give me a home loan, you can't be racist and discriminate on me because of the color of my skin. If I don't need you to police me, you can't shoot me because I'm black, because I don't need your police in my neighborhood. So the moment we get rid of dependency and move into independency, immediately we destroy racism. And people don't think that we can destroy racism, but we can. Now let's move on. For fear that our future generations may not understand the principles of breaking both of the beasts together, the nigger and the horse, we understand that short-range planning economics result in periodic economic chaos, so that to avoid turmoil in the economy, it requires us to have breadth and depth and long-range comprehensive planning, articulating both skill-sharp perceptions. We lay down the following principles for long-range comprehensive economic planning. Both horse and niggers is no good to the economy in the wild or natural state. Again, we cannot be in our natural state for this thing to work for them. Once we get back in our natural state, it falls apart. Both must be broken and tied together for orderly production. For orderly future, special and particular attention must be paid to the female and the youngest offspring. Both must be crossbred to produce a variety of division of labor. Both must be taught to respond to a peculiar new language. Psychological and physical instruction of containment must be created for both. We hold the 6 cardinal principles as truth to be self-evident based upon the following: the discourse concerning the economics of breaking and tying the horse and the nigger together. All inclusive, all the 6 principles laid down about. Neither principle alone will suffice for good economics. All principles must be employed for orderly good of the nation. So I gave you all 6 principles. And what Willie says, all 6 have to work harmoniously for this thing to work. If we remove just one of these principles, we destroy the whole thing, y'all. If we just destroy one of his principles, we destroy this whole thing. The last thing is psychological containment. Right now, this class, this webinar, is teaching how to destroy that psychological containment. And if and when we destroy that psychological containment, we pull the rug from under this entire thing. We don't even have to deal with all 6, even though we will. But all we have to do is remove ourselves from one part, and that will destroy this whole thing. That will untie this entire thing. And that's what this webinar here is about. It's about us destroying that psychological containment that our people are in. Our people's minds are contained inside of Willie Lynchism, and that's why it's imperative that we break this mental curse. You cannot rest. They sleep while you are awake, and are awake while you are asleep. They are dangerous near the family house, and it requires too much labor to watch them away from the house. Above all, you cannot get them to work in this natural state. Hence, both the horse and the nigger must be broken. That is, breaking them from one form of mental life to another. Keep the body, take the mind. I know y'all heard that before. In other words, break the will to resist. Now, the breaking process is the same for both the horse and the nigger, only slightly varying in degrees. But as we said before, there is an art in long-range economic planning. You must keep your eye and thoughts on the female and the offspring of the horse and the nigger. A brief discourse in offspring development will shed light on the key to sound economic principles. Pay little attention to the generation of original breaking, but concentrate on future generations. Now, what they did to break the man, or the man who would not accept his role as slave, is they would kill him or they would beat him almost to death. Now today, this is being done through the homosexual agenda. What Willie Lynch wanted to do was make sure there were no assertive men who would stand up to the slave masters. He wanted to make sure there was no men who would look him in his eye as a man and say, you're not going to do this to me, and you're not going to do this to my family or my people. I'm going to fight you to the death. So they wanted to break men from this assertive position. They wanted to make sure there were no black men who were going to stand up and fight back. And now through this homosexual agenda, with the rise of assertive, uncompromising, unapologetic black men, they are using these same principles to get other black men to keep a slave's mind. They continuously publicize how we're being killed. Then saying the reason that we're being killed is because we're strong black men, or every strong black man is a threat. And if a black man wants to stay alive, he has to tone down his masculinity. This is what they're teaching. Through the media, through the imaging, that if black man with a hoodie on, if he is smiling while he's walking down the street, he's a threat and he can die. So the best way for you to survive in this world is to tone down your power. Is to tone down your masculinity. Is to make sure you're not a threat to master. And this agenda of turning our men feminine, turning our men soft, and causing our men to not be assertive, unapologetic black men is the same Willie Lynch-ism today. It has just changed a different form. Both men and women, we have to promote, embrace, and celebrate true masculinity. And we have to completely condemn femininity in our men. Now, I know some people are not going to like that, and I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to talk about what needs to be done. We have to celebrate and embrace assertive, Nat Turner-like black men who are going to fight for their people no matter what, even if it costs them their life. We have to celebrate and embrace them, and we have to stop celebrating these feminine men. Women, you got to stop celebrating these feminine men. Tomorrow, oh, I love gay men. Now, it's not about being gay. It's about becoming a woman. It's about leaving your natural warrior state and becoming feminine. We have to condemn that completely, because if we don't condemn that completely, too many of our men will accept femininity as a way or a means of survival, because being an assertive black man might kill them. And now, since everybody is celebrating it, more and more of our men are joining in on the bandwagon, and we're losing warriors. And this is the goal of Willie Lynch. This is the goal of Willie Lynch. So to counter what happened, because they would kill the man in front of the wife and children and in front of the rest of the enslaved, or they would beat him in front of the enslaved, or they would rape him in front of the enslaved. And they would use these actions to put fear into the men. And those same actions are being done today when they show us Alton Sterling being killed on camera, or Tamir Rice, or Eric Garner, and they continuously publicize it. They're putting it in our face to show you, we will kill you niggas if you're too strong. Or you got a hoodie on, you walking with your head upright, we'll kill you niggas. And they don't want us to be assertive. But you know what? They got to kill me. I ain't toning nothing down. Nor am I going to celebrate feminine men. I'm going to condemn it to the day that I die, because that is causing us to lose warriors, and it's fitting into Willie Lynch's agenda. Next, the breaking process of the African woman. Take the female and run a series of tests on her to see if she will submit to your desires willingly. Test her in every way, because she is the most important factor for good economics. If she shows any sign of resistance in submitting completely to your will, do not hesitate to use the bullwhip on her to extract the last bit of resistance out of her. Take care not to kill her, for in doing so, you spoil good economics. Excuse me. So the first thing they did in the breaking process of the African woman was over-sexualize her. First, he says, run tests on her to see if she will willfully give herself to you. Let's see if she's just going to give her body to you. See if she's going to have sex with you because she wants to. And if she doesn't, you force her. And if she doesn't by force, you whip her until she allows you to have sex with her. But this whole thing, we have to over-sexualize her. We have to put it in her mind that she has to use her body as her protection. She has to have it in her mind that she has to use her body in order to protect her children. So what would happen is our enslaved women, in order to prevent things from happening to their children, or in order to get extra from master, they would have to have sex with master or throw themselves upon master in order to get certain things. And it created this big ball of over-sexualization that we still see to this day. All on social media, we see our women over-sexualizing ourselves. In life, we see our women using their bodies to get marriages with rich men, or just using their bodies to make money, or using their bodies to get some kind of prestige or some kind of notoriety or some kind of fame. They're continually over-sexualizing themselves because this is what they have been trained to do. Now, to counter that, both men and women must stop viewing and promoting black women as sexual objects. Now, as a man, I'm going to start with men myself. And I did a video on this on my Facebook page about men stop over-sexualizing black women, and one on women stop over-sexualizing themselves. So if you can get a chance, go on my Facebook page, Mitchell Chance Speaks, and check out those two videos. But we have to, as men, stop looking at our women as just tits and ass, because we are perpetuating Willie Lynchism when we do so. When we continue to only look at our women for sex, we're doing exactly what the slave master did. He didn't look at her for her intellect. He didn't look at her for anything else that she had of value. He didn't look at her as a queen. He looked at her as a sex object and someone to have babies for economics. And as black men, we become new slaves, as Alvaro says, anyone who pushes the will of the original slave master, when we only see our women as sex objects and we don't see any value in them. So as men, we have to, and again, force actions eventually change mindsets. We have to force ourselves to stop looking at our women in sexual ways every time we look at them. We have to force ourselves to stop looking at a woman's butt every time she walks by. We have to force ourselves. And women, you have to force yourself to stop taking pictures of just your butt. You have to force yourself to speak to your girlfriends about over-sexualizing themselves and wearing certain things. And I know the feminist movement is telling you it's your body, you can do what you want. Don't listen to that bull crap. It's not your body. Your body belongs to the race. A black man, it ain't his body. His body belongs to the race. We belong to the race. We belong to the future generations. We don't belong to ourselves. And this independent mindset that we are our own by ourselves is what's destroying us, because that's not an African concept. That's this Western American capitalist imperialist mind. It's not our mind. We are the race. African proverb, I am because we are. So you cannot be unless we are. So we got to get out of that mindset and stop over-sexualizing ourselves. As we stop over-sexualizing our women, we will begin to break what Willie Lynch started, because now if I'm not just sexualizing you, I'm forcing myself to see what else it is that you have to offer. And when I begin to see what else it is that you have to offer, I begin to see some power in you. I begin to see I can work with you on different levels. I begin to see you can be used in such a powerful way to uplift our race. I begin to see the queen in you, and they don't want us to see the queen in our women, but when we force ourselves to stop over-sexualizing our women, all we'll end up seeing is the queenship that's inside of these women. So let's go back still to the breaking process of the woman. Understanding is the best thing. Therefore, we shall go deeper into this area of the subject matter concerning what we have produced here in the breaking process of the female nigger. We have reversed the relationship. In her natural uncivilized state, she would have a strong dependency on uncivilized nigger male, and she would have a limited protective dependency toward her independent male offspring and would raise male offsprings to be dependent like her. Nature had provided for this type of balance. We reverse nature by burning and pulling a civilized nigger apart and bullwhipping the other to the point of death, all in her presence. By her being left alone, unprotected, with the male image destroyed, the ordeal caused her to move from her psychological dependent state to a frozen independent state. In this frozen psychological state of independence, she will raise her male and female offspring in reversed roles. So now, the next thing that was broken was the black woman's dependency on the black man. And he talks about freezing them in independent states. We have an epidemic of independent black women. Not because black women don't have the capacity to do things on their own. Not that I believe black women are less than black men. But this frozen independent state always causes a clash between the black man and the black woman. Not to blame black women, because we're here dealing with the root cause of Willie Lynch perpetuating this frozen independent state hundreds of years ago that needs to be broken. Now, ladies, I'm going to tell you exactly why this thing needs to be broken. When you are frozen in this independent state and you're dealing with a black man, now, in his natural state, he is supposed to be the head. He is supposed to be the leader. And I did a video on that. You can also check that out. When you are so frozen in this independent state, you have this view of your life independent, doing it on your own, building on your own, and that independent view does not have a man in it anywhere. So then, when a man comes in your life, since you're so frozen in this independent state, you don't alter your vision of your life. And you still have an independent mindset, even though you're with a man now and you're not by yourself. And you'll continually fight to do the independent things as opposed to building with your partner. And that independent mindset will continually destroy your relationships, because when the man and woman come together, they're supposed to be one. They're supposed to be building in harmony. They're supposed to be building a future together. But that independent, frozen psychological state causes you, even in a relationship or a marriage, to still think independent, to still want to do your own thing and not want to do or work in harmony with your partner. And this is what Willie wants to happen. He wanted you to be frozen in that independent state, to where everything you do is going to be centered around being an independent woman. You're going to celebrate being an independent woman. You're going to put Beyonce and Destiny's Child song on, and you're just going to love being independent when we need you and you need us. We got to do this thing together. And as long as you have this independent mindset, it's going to continue to destroy your relationships and destroy the betterment of our race. And it's going to ensure that our people will never prosper as long as our women are thinking that they have to be independent. And again, this is not to knock women. I'm showing you what Willie Lynch desired. This is what Willie Lynch desired. And some of our women are living that out today. And we must change that. Now, our men, we must first put ourselves in a dependable position. And our women must be willing to leave this frozen state of independence. So, black men, you have to make sure you're doing everything you can for your woman to depend on you. You have to make sure you're showing your loyalty. You have to make sure you're showing her a vision that she fits in and how she can work with you to attain these goals. You have to show her how you're willing to lay your life on the line for her. You have to show her that you have her best interests in mind at all times. You have to show her that every day, all day, you're thinking about how you can make sure that her life is better today than it was yesterday. You have to show her that you're dependable. And black woman, you have to be willing to let go of this independent state. I know it has become a badge of honor to be an independent woman, but it's time for you to no longer subscribe to this independent thinking and break yourself out of this frozen independent state. Next, it says, in this frozen psychological state of independence, she will raise her male and female offspring in reversed roles. So there, the goal was to get the women to teach the boys to be mentally weak but physically strong and remove their leadership qualities. Now, what we see so much today is a lot of black women who are teaching their sons to just be soft, teaching their sons to be dependent on them, teaching their sons to just not be men. They're not teaching them any leadership qualities, and I know a lot of this is because there aren't men in our home, so we got to address that also. But ladies, you can't baby your sons while teaching your daughters to be independent. You can't coddle your sons while teaching your daughters to be independent. That's a reversing of the roles. You have to teach your sons how to be independent. You're teaching your daughters how to make sure she can do everything on her own, that she don't need no man, but you're not teaching your son how to be a man that your daughters could need or use or work with. So what they trained our women to do mentally in that frozen state is to remove the leadership qualities from our young black boys. So now to counter that, we have to teach young black boys to be fearless leaders. We have to teach them that they are to be Nat Turner-like, that they are to be Marcus Garvey-like, that they are to be Frederick Douglass, Booker T. Washington, Patrice Lumumba, Medgar Evers-like, Idi Amin-like, Muammar Gaddafi-like. We have to teach our young black boys to be fearless leaders. We cannot teach them to be followers. That's just psychic chaos when the leader is now following the one who is supposed to be following him. So now, instead of the men being the head, we got so many women that are being the head, and the men are just being the woman, and the man is allowing the woman to take care of him, and he ain't got no ambition and nothing. We have to change that. And all that is because of the way that these young boys are being taught. And we have to teach our young black boys to be fearless leaders. When you teach your young black boys to be fearless leaders, it will begin to counter everything that Willie Lynch started. Because when our women see so many of their men are fearless leaders, are willing to be the head, are willing to lay their lives on the line, that will begin to break the women out of their frozen independent state, because now they see men that they can depend on. So ladies, it's time, and men, make sure you raise your sons to be fearless leaders, for that will begin to destroy Willie Lynch's ideas. Now, the last thing in this section. Okay. Now, we can sleep soundly, for out of frozen fear, his woman stands guard for us. He cannot get past her early slave molding process. Now, that's the crazy. He cannot get past her early slave molding process. Ladies, look at that. I know you. It's like you want to fight when men don't want you to be independent. But what Willie says is, the man who is doing everything right, he's not going to be able to get past your early slave molding process. You got to let it go. He is a good tool now, ready to be tied to the horse at a tender age. By the time a nigger boy reaches the age of 16, he is soundly broken in and ready for a long life of sound and efficient work and the reproduction of a unit of good labor force. Continually through the breaking of uncivilized savage nigger, by throwing the nigger female savage into a frozen psychological state of independence, by killing off the protective male image. The last thing on here for that section is destroying the image of black men. So we have the media destroying the image of black men. We have politicians destroying the image of black men. We have entertainment destroying the image of black men. Our movies, our music, everything is destroying the image of black men. And that is a part of the plan to make sure we're making every black man look like a gangster, a thug, a hoodlum, a deadbeat father, someone who doesn't care about their black women, when there are so many men who will protect and provide for their women. There are so many men who will protect and provide for their children. There are so many men who are positive and who are not thugs and who are not gangsters and who are not killing and selling drugs to each other. There are so many men, but that image is not promoted. We're not celebrating that image, and that was the goal. That's part of the goal. If I can continually push this negative image of the black man, I can get the woman to continually distrust the black man, and I can get the young black boy to not even want to grow up to be a black man. All because the image of the black man has been destroyed, to the point where if you are a black man, as the man that got killed, I believe, I'm not sure where it was at, but the cop in the helicopter said he looks like a bad man because his car ran out of gas or broke down and he was trying to get help. He ended up getting killed because he was a black man that looked like a bad man just by being a black man. This is what happens when our image is destroyed. So now, to counter that, we forget their media, forget their news, forget what they control. We got to be intentional about promoting and celebrating assertive, uncompromising, unapologetic black men, and not allow Caucasians to control the narrative of what type of black man we can accept. Because they're only going to want you to accept a black man who's going to shave all his hair off his face, don't have a mustache, talk like he's white, wear suits, and bow down to them. That's the only kind of man they want you to follow. That's the only kind of black man they want you to celebrate and esteem. They don't want you to celebrate and esteem a black man who said, by any means necessary. No, they want to give you Martin Luther King under the guise that he was just weak and soft and docile, give you that image, celebrate that image, give you a holiday for that image, but they don't want to give you the image of the man holding a gun, saying by any means necessary. Why? They don't want you to follow a real man. This is Willie Lynchism from 1712 to 2017. Still the same thing. Destroy the image. Make the image of a real man bad. So now, any man who is an assertive, uncompromising, unapologetic black man, he's racist, he's violent, He's a thug. And even if he's a professional man who's just fighting for his people, like Malcolm X, he's too militant. How can I be too militant about protecting my own people? But when they make that image negative, but then give us the gay guy off of Empire, and they celebrate him, or they try to push D. Ray McKesson on us, and they celebrate him. They celebrate the movie Moonlight, which is celebrating and highlighting homosexuality. They want to celebrate those things, but when a man like me comes up, and I say, I ain't playing that, we got to fight for our own stuff. Oh, Mitch, you can't follow him. He's too militant. They destroyed the image of the black man. And when that image is destroyed, our women don't want our men, and our young boys don't want to grow up to be those men. So we have to be intentional about celebrating men who will really, really, really fight for our people. Let's go next. The nigger marriage. We breed 2 nigger males with 2 nigger females. Then we take the nigger males away from them and keep them moving and working. Say one nigger female bears a nigger female and the other bears a nigger male. Both nigger females, being without influence of the nigger male image, frozen with an independent psychology, will raise their offspring into reverse positions. The one with the female offspring will teach her to be like herself, independent, negotiable. We negotiate with her, through her, by her, and we negotiate her at will. The one with the nigger male offspring, she being frozen with the subconscious fear for his life, will raise him to be mentally dependent and weak, but physically strong. In other words, body over mind. Now, in a few years, when these 2 offsprings become fertile for early reproduction, we will mate and breed them and continue the cycle. That is good, sound, and long-range comprehensive planning. We just dealt with all of that. Warning, possible interloping negatives. Oh no, we can just deal with what I just read. Now, the next thing they were teaching was to reverse the roles of black youth. So we talked about that briefly, and I'm just going to talk about this real brief because we got to move on. So they reverse the roles of the youth. Now, what we have to do is we got to stop fighting traditional roles. I understand it's 2017 and some women want to say that things are barbaric and things are outdated, but we got to get back to traditional roles, y'all. These traditional roles are not harming us. Now, I understand that patriarchy done wrong, or patriarchy is not an issue. Unrighteous men in patriarchy cause problems, but righteous men in patriarchy are going to make sure that families and everybody is good. So it's not that traditional roles are wrong. We just got to make sure our men are doing the right thing, and we got to hold them accountable. So as men, now I'm going to be one of the men that hold our men accountable, but our women have to hold our men accountable also. But we have to stop reversing the roles and what we're teaching our youth. Let's get back to teaching our youth traditional roles. Little boy, you're supposed to grow up to be the man of your house, lead your family, protect your family. Little girl, you're supposed to grow up to be the woman and support your man and support your family with all of your talents and gifts. We got to get out of all of the independent stuff, teaching the little girl to be like a man. She's not a man. We cannot continue to say, our women cannot continue to say, anything a man can do, I can do. No, you're not supposed to do everything a man can do. You're not a man, you're a woman. You're supposed to do what you're supposed to do, and a man's supposed to do what he's supposed to do. We have to stop reversing the roles. Now, warning, possible interloping negatives. Earlier, we talked about the non-economic good of the horse and the nigger in their wild and natural state. We talked about the principle of breaking and tying them together for orderly production. Furthermore, we talked about paying particular attention to the female savage and her offspring for orderly future planning. Then more recently, we stated that by reversing the positions of the male and female savages, we created an orbiting cycle that turns on its own axis forever. It turns on its own axis forever unless a phenomenon occurred and reshift in positions of the male and the female savages. And that's what we're here to do right now. We are that phenomenon. Our experts warned us about the possibility of this phenomenon occurring, for they say that the mind has a strong drive to correct and recorrect itself over a period of time if it can touch some substantial original historical base. And they advise us that the best way to deal with the phenomenon is to shave off the brute's mental history, and create a multiplicity of phenomena of illusions so that each illusion will twirl in its own orbit, something similar to floating balls in a vacuum. Next thing, they shaved off our mental history. The belief was if a people are connected to their history, then the mind will reverse itself. So They made sure we didn't learn any black history. They took away what we knew about our own people. They took away our language. They took away our homeland. And then they fed us that Africa was just uncivilized. And they fed us that they had to go in there and teach the Africans everything. And they fed us that everybody in Africa just lived in huts and walked around naked. And we had no contact with what our history really was about. Because if we get in contact with our history, it reverses our mental curse. So that's simple right there. To counter that, learn and teach everything we can about our history in the U.S. and spread across the world. Teach about what we did in Africa. Teach about what we did in Europe. Teach about what we did in Asia. Teach about what we did in Australia. Teach about what we did here in America prior to slavery. There are pyramids in the United States of America. They knew if we get back in touch with our history, our minds will see the greatness that we were and will begin to reverse itself. And will reverse this mental curse that has been placed on us. So if we want to reverse that curse, we're reversing all 6 of the things here that I talked about earlier. If we just touch the history, teach the history, it will automatically reverse the mindsets of our people. But we have to be intentional about it, people. My kings, my queens, learn everything you can about our culture. Learn everything you can about our history. And when you learn it, make sure you teach it. Teach it to your peers and teach it to your youth. For our history will mentally retrain our minds to get back into our natural state. Now, the creation of multiplicity of phenomena or illusions entail the principle of crossbreeding the nigger and the horse, as we stated above, the purpose of which is to create a diverse division of labor, thereby creating different levels of labor and different values of illusions at each connecting level of labor, the result of which is the severance of the points of original beginnings for each sphere illusion. Since we feel that the subject matter may get more complicated as we proceed and land down our own economic plan concerning the purpose, reason, and effect of crossbreeding horses and nigger, we shall lay down the following definitions for future generations. Let's see. Okay, let's drop down here. Crossbreeding niggers mean taking so many drops of good white blood and putting them into as many nigger women as possible, varying the drops by the various tone that you want, and then letting them breed with each other until another cycle or color appears as you desire. Now, the psychosomatic. They begin to crossbreed in an attempt to put white hatred into the DNA of the African. Now, what their belief was, if we can mix their race up a little bit, we can get them to believe what we believe about them and have it embedded in their DNA. Since we hate them so much and it's in our DNA, if we impregnate a black woman and she has a mixed child and then that child mixes with more black children and so on and so on and so on, we'll put self-hate in their DNA. Woo. That's powerful. Now, though our race has already been diluted, we must cease from further dilution and only procreate with other blacks. We have to rid ourselves of all of the DNA or as much of the DNA as possible as we can, because if we don't, the self-hate will continually be embedded in our DNA. Now, we're talking about psychologists here, guys, who opened it up, told you how they studied the people. And this is a psychological belief that, now I can't say that it's true. I don't know for sure if you can actually spread hate through DNA, but they sure believed it. And my position is just whatever they did to get us where we are, we have to do the opposite. And I know, interracial marriage is not something that we want to continually condemn because so many of our people have already done it and we want to just love who we love. I understand that. And I'm not here to condemn black people who have married interracially. What I'm saying is Willie Lynch taught that by putting so many drops of white blood into black people, that their hatred will be a part of our DNA. And I believe that it's for us to counter every single thing that he did against us. The last thing, and we're done. Crossbreeding completed for further severance from their original beginning, we must completely annihilate the mother tongue of both the nigger and the new mule and institute a new language that involved the new life's work of both. You know, language is a peculiar institution. It leads to the heart of a people. The more a foreigner knows about the language of another country, the more he is able to move through all levels of society. Therefore, if the foreigner is an enemy of the country to the extent that he knows the body of the language, to that extent is the country vulnerable to attack or evasion of a foreign country. For example, if you take a slave, if you teach him about your language, he will know all your secrets, and he is then no more a slave, for you can't fool him any longer. Now, I'm not going to read all for the rest of the time. We're just going to break this down and go on, and then we're going to close out. So the last thing on here is the miseducation and confusion of language. So he's saying you got to give them a new language, but he's not saying teach them English properly. He's saying give them some broken form of language that they might not even really understand the language, because if they really understand this language, they're going to know that when I say this is for us, it's not really for them, because they understand what us really means. They need us to understand that us means they work for it, but it's still mine. To this day, we are being miseducated. I talked about this yesterday, about how in Philadelphia, our pre-K students are not allowed to learn how to read. It's against the rules if you want to get funding to teach the children how to read. And then after they can learn how to read, our curriculum is always on a lower level than those who are in private schools or those who are in suburban areas. And that right there keeps our people from actually knowing even the language that we speak today. We speak English, but many of us don't know what the words mean that we use. We just continually use what we heard, and so many times we're using word just out of context. Like the word hope means to expect, but we use hope more like wishing. Just shows there are so many words that we don't even really know the answers to. So now to counter that, we have to learn as much as we can about the Caucasians' education, but understand that it's with the sole intention of infiltrating their systems. We can't learn their education systems because we want to be like them. We can't learn their education systems because we want to assimilate. We have to learn their education because we want to know everything that they know, so we can use it to build up our own people, so we can use it to counter them, so we can use it to make sure they're not getting over on us in any type of way. We're being miseducated, so the way to counter being miseducated is to make sure we are educating ourselves properly and understanding everything that they do. If you get a chance, YouTube The Spook Who Sat by the Door. Watch that movie and you'll really understand what it means to learn everything from them and then use it for your good. As Willie said, if a foreigner comes here and learns our language, he'll learn our secrets. And if he learns our secrets, then we'll be vulnerable to an attack. They don't want us to learn what they know, because if we learn what they know, they will be vulnerable for attacks. I thank you guys so much for purchasing this webinar. I really hope that what we've been through the past hour has really enlightened your mind. To your right, you can download the points from this message so you can have them for the future, to see the things or the solutions, to see what we have to work on and continually work on. This video will also stay up for replay, so you can come back and watch it at any time. Make sure you spread the word, even if someone doesn't want to support financially and purchase the webinar. Let your friend watch it. Watch it with a group. Put this on the big screen and put some people in front of it and watch this video. Take some notes, learn from it, because and also the Willie Lynch letter is there for you to download. Download the letter, read it yourself, dissect it, and see what was done to us. Look at what was done to us. I know some things might be a little bit uncomfortable for us at first, but forced actions eventually change your mentality. Black people, I love you with all of my heart, and it is my desire that we break the mental curse of Willie Lynch, because that curse is what has been keeping us at the bottom. But the moment we get back to our natural state, we will become the royalty we once were. And always, love black, buy black, and think black. I love y'all.